Again to the Prime Minister. Prime Minister, is it a fact that you made policy on the run about pay TV and airline privatisation without consulting your Minister for Transport and Communications? Is it a fact that you conjured up a job summit and announced several different TAFE policies without, without consulting your Minister for Employment, Education and Training? Is it a fact that you have now kidnapped the Aboriginal statement against the wishes of the Minister for Aboriginal Affairs? Is it a fact that this disorganisation and chaos surrounding you and your office is now crippling the processes of government, prompting your office to be described as a Republican Guard? And I ask the Prime Minister... I ask the Prime Minister, when will he put the interests of the nation above his own political survival and restore a proper system of cabinet government to this country?
The Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker. You see, Mr. Cabinet government like there was in his time, where they walked in and got knocked over every day, he said, in BRW. We would walk in, he said, Mr Howard and the advisers, with hopes high to be knocked over by some anecdote that had come from the non-members' bar the night before from the National Party. That's the sort of cabinet government. We could never get any of the Campbell report recommendations through. We could never get any structural change through. The process of the Fraser government had broken down, he said. And yet this government, which is now working on the problems which you left behind, including a regulated two-airline system.
Order.
A regulated two-airline system.
Order.
I mean, the gall of you, that in 3 weeks before the 1983 election, after the writs had been issued, you signed the two-airline agreement up for nearly a decade, and then with the to open the Australian skies up with a proper interface between international and domestic carriage, we had to wait till that expired and then make the policy changes in matters which have been matters of great debate in the Cabinet of this government over a long period of time, with airline deregulation and the various phases of regulation airline changes, including those changes which were promoted by the then Minister for Transport, Mr Beazley, at our national conference, and the sale of half of Qantas and 100% of Australian. The Cabinet knows the issues back to front, and that's why we were able to bring the policy on quickly from the changes forecast in One Nation. Now, Mr Speaker, that's called leadership and action. That's what it's called. That's what it's called. But the idea that we've got to sit around...
The member for Bass.
The idea that we've got to sit around like sort of bureaucratic frousers waiting to be called for some country party anecdote to come from the non-members' bar before any policy can be changed is not the way we work, thank you. Not the way we work. And as far as television policy is concerned, almost everyone on this side of the House is a full expert in television policy and media policy. You ask them and they'll tell you. And the fact is, Mr Speaker, they are. And that's why, in an issue for which members of the government have sat on select committees or been involved in broad inquiry and consultation about media policy, and having lived through the most dramatic changes in the opening up of television, broadcasting opportunities in this country, and now lately with pay TV, of course the government in its entirety, that's its backbench, its negotiating committee and its cabinet, were able to make decisions quickly and rapidly, knowing all the issues as they could. Imagine trying to take the dullard opposite through pay TV. Imagine taking them, you know, with the sort of the blank stares as we went through the technological issues involved in pay television. You could imagine it, couldn't you? But Mr Speaker, the funniest part about the question was this question about how we decided to hold a youth summit. I've been speaking of this for months to members of the Australian business community for months. 4 months. These discussions I had with members of the business community for months, and my colleague has had them for longer than I have. And that's why he made the Carmichael report one of the things which he knew would change the nature of the labour market for young people, and that's why the meeting we are having now is a natural outcome of those discussions. But the stunt, Mr Speaker, the policy on the run stunt is to turn the Jamboree in Sydney on the GST into a youth summit. There's your stunt. no forethought, no discussion, no consultation, no policy, just a stunt. A publicised open stunt, as if these people ever cared about 15 to 19-year-olds or ever had the compassion and decency to formulate a bit of decent policy for them. And to say of this government, which has now changed and will change forever the airline system of Australia, the television and broadcasting ways of Australia, that what we should do is go back to your sloth and take your sloth as an example, being run by bureaucrats as you always were. Run by bureaucrats as you always were. I mean, it's a classic story, John, you won't mind me telling this, it's against you, but it's not a harmful one. But apparently in the preparation of Statement 2, in 1982, this is the text on the economy, past and present. The then Treasurer said to the Secretary of the Treasury, "How's Statement number 2 going, John?" "Oh, quite well, Treasurer. I think you'll see we've done a workmanlike job, and when you see it, you'll be proud of it." "Oh, good, thank you, John." That is it. That is Statement 2. That was Statement 2 on the Treasury. Now, Mr Speaker, that's what we have never done here. I mean, one of the complaints against, I mean, that's how they just gave you the papers. Here you are, you ninnies, here's the papers. Oh, thank you very much, thank you. Now, where's the recommendation? We read that and click back to the office and back to the white car, and that's what you call governing Australia. Well, that's not the way we do it. Now, people have said of me, that I have, you know, one of the claims by some of the pointy people that we've rewrote Statement 2 and rewritten parts of Statement 2. Too right I have. Because I want to make clear that it was the government of Australia running Australia and not the bureaucracy. And that's where it's always been, whether it be television policy, youth policy or anything else, leaving it to the dullards of the Liberal Party, the laggards who watched Australia slip into the status of an industrial museum, while the bureaucracy had no political authority for change, is just what Australia doesn't need at this time.